Welcome to the Maythorn Monthly for July. I'm back in the hotel in Svistov, Bulgaria that I reported from last year. It's got a balcony, so I sit out here and we've got a view of the River Danube, although I'm on a lower floor this time, so I can't quite see as much. First of all, let's go to an area down on the riverfront at the far end of Svistov. That would be the east end, if my compass serves me correctly. And there's various ruins. There's a Roman dig going on, we didn't cover that. There's a big monument and there's a great restaurant, so go and have a look at that right now. So more from here in Svistov later on. There's a lot more to it, but right now we're going back to Spain to catch up on some of the other things that are going on at Marina d'Or. So, taking a look at some of the leisure parts of the resort along Playa Las Emplarias, where most of us have our apartments, and you'll know the name Gaudi. Gaudi's a restaurant that I've never seen open, but people tell me they have been in there. For 9 months of the year, there's some really nice swimming pools that don't really get used because they're closed.
the bar in Vistamar 1, Beota, opposite Vistamar 2, that's just over there, and it's open all year round, so that's one place you can always go. But opposite in Vistamar 2, sometimes you'll see the supermarket open, I have done, but I've never seen this pizzeria open. And in saying this, I should point out that I don't come here in July and August generally. In front of Acapulco 4, which is the building where the Lasati restaurant is, and the new hi-fi hut was built, they're complaining about the views due to other obstacles that are on the green area, so we'll have a closer look at that in the future.
The thing that Spain has in common this time of year with Bulgaria and probably a few other European countries is it's very warm. I've been watching the temperatures from Castellón Airport. They're coming in 29-30, very similar to here in Bulgaria, here in Svistov. We're moving down now to the little village where Colin and I have our houses, and he's been renovating his last year. Mine's still unapproachable because it's totally overgrown. We'll cover that another time. But we showed you Davy's garden. Davy's the guy who's lived here for about 9 years now, I think, and he tends to care for all the stray cats and is very animal friendly. And actually the Bulgarians are becoming more animal friendly themselves in the last few years. They're beginning to take on animals as pets, whereas previously animals were just seen as either food or working animals to pull tractors and, to replace tractors really. To pull carts around and so on. Anyway, Davy must be hailed as someone who's changing that, along with quite a few other people. And let's go over now to his garden, where I believe he's getting the barbecue going. Well, the places that we visit here in Bulgaria have been Svistov, because it's the nearest town to where our village houses are, Oresh itself, the village where the houses are, and there are plenty more for sale, and there's been a lot of interest in those, so we'll cover that soon. If we don't get to it this month, we will give you an idea of what's on the market in the next month or two, for those who want to buy themselves a little project in Oresh. We're also going to Veliko Tarnovo, that's later in this edition of Maythorn Monthly, and we'll take another look at that waterfall that Colin filmed a few months ago, as well as perhaps seeing if we can find out anything about the airport that's being extended and enlarged in the Veliko Tarnovo area. People, by the way, call Veliko Tarnovo VT, and I will do that from now on. And then people were still going to contact me and say, where's VT? So here's VT, and after VT we'll be going back to the UK because we're selling our bungalow there.
So in 1972 this was built as a 3-bedroom detached bungalow and has been extended several times since then. In the 80s this part at the back was added on under a flat roof, which is the bit that causes us a bit of trouble, and this stud wall was put in because originally there was a living room there and this was knocked through to form a dining room here and then patio doors out onto the garden. The next stage in the year 2000, so nearly 20 years ago now, was when a lad just becoming teenage wanted his own bedroom, a bigger one than the little box room he had. This became his bedroom. Typical of teenagers, he wanted his own colour scheme, and you'll get an idea from these early videos of him inspecting his new room that he got his own way with that. And later on he filled it with all his posters. The first you saw of it on the Maythorn Monthly was when we cleared it all out and painted all these walls white, and we had no lights in here. Now there was a reason for the taking down of the lights, not something you normally do, but we seem to have a thing about ceiling fans. We'd found in a holiday in the Canaries in 1998 that ceiling fans were good for keeping you cool through the night, whereas air conditioning could tend to freeze you. So we have ceiling fans in a lot of places and decided they now needed to come out. We've still got one more to remove, and then we need some new light fittings to replace them, which is where you came in and saw me with some lights to put in. So now here it is. It's a bedroom again, double bed, pictures on the walls, white walls everywhere. Lots of light comes in from the garden. The sun is round the back here at the moment, and we have ceiling lights that you've seen earlier. So that's our first bedroom all done and ready to go. I have something else to update. We did a thing on digital banks, neobanks, challenger banks, whatever you like to call them, and this bank came out on top for me. I don't know if you can read that or if you recognise the logo. Starling. Starling sent me some socks. Now they don't watch the Maythorn Monthly, so it wasn't because of that. I actually gave them a good review on Google and said what a wonderful bank they were, and they sent me some socks. So I need to update something I said about Starling last month, where I said that they will change sterling into euros for no fees. They are going to charge the same as TransferWise from September, so you've got the rest of July and August to get free changeovers in sterling. After that, as far as we know, Revolut are still going to be letting you transfer currency for free. How long can they afford to do that? And another story which takes place in September, if you were watching the banking thing I did, you'll notice I wasn't very complimentary about the German bank, the first one. N26 is the new German bank I'm using, and they're great. But Fidor, F-I-D-O-R, they were still half in German with all their transactions and website and everything, and they never really quite got the UK market. Well, they're pulling out of it altogether in September. So if you had a Fidor account, I think mine is still open, then they're going to close it in September.
Big Brian's here!
Who's he?
Brian Smart! Mazzy is the station. It's the Brian Smart Show. With nothing but fun!
Smart circus.
Good morning, hope you're there, cause I'm here. David Cassidy in the title track of our featured album this morning, Rock Me Baby.
That's smart.
26 after 9 is the time, and more letters and dedications, and incidentally, before I go on, Paul Rowley's in the studio this morning. Good morning, Paul Rowley.
Good morning.
Right, that's it. Go home now. And somebody else that'll be coming in future weeks is Malcolm Leggett, and he wrote to me this week to confirm he was coming, and he lives at 11 Friars Road in Penrith in Cumberland, by Jove, and he says he'll be leaving on the morning, and he'll be leaving home about 3 o'clock and meeting Ian at Kendal just after 4 a.m. They'll be in Liverpool about 7:30 a.m. They'll be finished by the time they get here. Anyway, they're coming down. When are they coming down? 21st of April they'll be here from the Lake District. Motown competition time, Motown competition time, Motown competition time. Lots of entries as usual, and they're all right. So anyway, what I'll have to do, as I've got lots of right entries in my hand, is ask Paul Rowley to pick one. So hang about, let's spread them all out so he can see them all. And he won't be able to see who it is because I put the backs of the envelope. He'll be able to see lots of addresses, BBC Radio Merseyside on the back. Now Would you like to pick one of those as this week's winner of a £1 record token?
Right.
And there you go. And who is it?
The winner is Alan Rimmer.
Yeah, come down here. You can't speak from up there. No, yeah, down. Sit down. Sorry.
The winner is Alan Rimmer from 46 Ladysmith Road for Zackley, Liverpool 10. And he gets the right answer, which is Gotta See Jane and Indiana Wants Me. And he says, will you please play them both for me and my brother, who are Tamla Motown fans?
No.
I was 9 years old when I first heard Radio Caroline North, because I was born halfway between Liverpool and Manchester, and it blew my mind. It changed my life, effectively. I knew at the age of 7 when I first heard Radio Luxembourg I wanted to be on the wireless, as we then called it. Never ever dreamed I would be, as a lot of listeners may know these days, a BBC political correspondent, which I've been for the last 20 years. Before that I spent 20 years in commercial radio, but without listening to Radio Luxembourg under the bedclothes, as it were, and then the Pirates from 1964 onwards, I probably wouldn't have been here.
Station of the 80s, Radio Luxembourg. Radio Luxembourg.
Tilly. Non-stop music.
Radio Luxembourg.
You're watching the Maythorn Monthly, and here I am in North Wales, absolutely in the middle of nowhere. There's not a sound to be heard here apart from the birds that are flying around, and the odd insect will buzz past the microphone. But apart from that, completely deserted for miles and miles. A bus comes within about a mile of here, or maybe 2 miles from here, 3 times a week. I've looked at the timetable. There's an outgoing service but not a return service, so I don't know if you go into the nearest town of Ruthin on the bus how you'd get back. Very strange bus service indeed. Ruthin itself is worth a look, so we'll have a quick look around Ruthin town centre. And also not far from here is a Woodlands caravan park. It's part of a complex called Woodlands Hall, I think it is, and there are some beautifully laid out caravans on a site that you can live in 11.5 months a year. So let's have a look at that as well. So that's the Vale of Clwyd. We're a few miles out of Ruthin. We're going to return to Spain right now. It's not as quiet as this by any means, and there's an ice cream parlour on the front near the River Chinchilla Bridge, where one day I found a load of bikes outside, a load of bikers inside, and some rock music playing. And obviously, because of copyright reasons, I can't let you hear the music. We've been into this one before, but you have a quick look round at what was going on that day. Another venue at Marina d'Or where they have music and cabaret is Didota, the campsite, where it's mainly Germans and mostly English is spoken. The Spanish don't really have a look in there. And when we were there last time, they had a band on called Let It Beatles. Guess what? We can't let you hear the Beatles tunes because they're definitely copyright, but you can see the kind of event that it was. Some great hippie people on the stage playing their instruments, and we had a really enjoyable night and some good food and drink. Well, I'm going to leave this area now. I've got to go and find my wife. There's a lane behind me and about a mile and a half down there. There's some holiday cottages where she's been all morning, and I'm just on my way to pick her up and head back over into England. So, see you later. So that house is being sold by Chi. Now, Chi, as you may gather, is a little Oriental. He lives on the Wirral, which is round here near Chester, between Chester and Liverpool. And he bought another house in Oresh, in the village, and he's selling that plot with the 2 bungalows on. So there you are, if you're interested in that. The email address was on the screen. Rewind if you missed it. Okay, we're moving on now, and here's a nice leafy scene, a piece of woodland again in Bulgaria. Where do you think this is? Well, let's look around a bit, and you might spot a building that I showed you a couple of months back. It's the airport at Gorna Oriovica. I'm never sure if I've said that right. And George, who's walking away from the camera at this point, I'd just been talking to him. He's the security guard at this airport. He told me it's an international airport, but it's never going to have any commercial flights. He was absolutely adamant. This will never be an airport that you can fly from. The local press had a story about it, and it was reported like this in VT today, and it definitely says there are going to be 2 carriers who are as yet unnamed. Now we know from the history of Castellón Airport in Spain that quite often the people who get interested in the airport early on won't give their names. Although at Castellón, Jet2 actually said they were going to get involved and they never did. However, I still think Gorna Orivica will take off as an airport, if you'll pardon the pun. Finally, from Bulgaria, let's go back to, it's not far from Gorna Orivica actually, the Hotnitsa waterfall. I showed you Colin's footage of this last month. He went a long way up. You have to climb up these steep ladder staircase things to get to the bits he showed you, which were all really rather eerie and rather pleasant. We stayed on the ground, no climbing for us, because there's a great area for leisure and everything else, so have a look around there and see what you think. Certainly it turned out to be a good place for a wedding party to have their photographs taken.